if you're starting, this is actually a gold mine for you, right? You have like paying customers for your product who are actually using your product and giving you feedback every day.
How does a solo indie hacker turn a 48-hour weekend prototype into a SaaS business that brought in $65,000 in just 2 days, all without a Twitter following, a product hunt launch, or a single dollar in paid ads?
They were tweeting about us, they were posting a LinkedIn content, they were talking about our launch on Slack communities, WhatsApp communities, right? So this actually gave us a lot of boost.
DEVEN began his career as a software engineer at Amazon, but after years inside hyper-growth teams, burnout pushed him to explore something different, going solo. He started experimenting with side projects, including a Twitter lead gen tool called Honeypot, which grew to $10,000 in annual recurring revenue before new API costs forced him to shut it down.
The cost of API was really huge. It was $45,000 per month. I couldn't afford it, so my app was killed. And
Instead of giving up, DEVEN leaned deeper into indie hacking. In one weekend, he built SuperGrow, a tool that helps professionals turn rough ideas into high-performing LinkedIn posts using AI. Today, SuperGrow is sitting at $220,000 in annual recurring revenue, all powered by a strategy that prioritizes simplicity, fast feedback loops, and doubling down on what actually works. I sat down with DEVEN to unpack how he pulled it off, and he shared a ton of practical insights for anyone building without a big platform or audience, including why lifetime deals are so important and why you should do them as soon as possible, how to create ChatGPT API-powered products that people will pay for, and how to get 10x ROI from influencer marketing without getting scammed. Let's get into it. DEVEN, welcome to the show. So a lot of stuff happened before you ended up where you are today with SuperGrow. Tell us more about that journey, like what you learned along the way to help you to hit the ground running with SuperGrow.
my journey actually started like 15 to 16 years ago. So it was in ninth standard when I got introduced to programming. So I went to IIT Jodhpur. I studied computer science engineering for 4 years there, right? And just after college, I got this like offer from Amazon to join them as a software development engineer. And I was really excited because it is like one of the biggest companies of the world, right? But soon after, like maybe like 4 or 5 months, I realized it's a huge company and there are so many things which are already built. You're basically just handling a small portion of the whole system. I got really frustrated because of that and I left the company. I started my own company called MindIQ, which I grew it to like 100K ARR. It was a AI customer support chatbot platform back then. We were very early, right? But back then it was really difficult to build something like that because tech wasn't there, or specifically AI wasn't there, right? So we just tried multiple things and took it to 100K ARR. But we pretty early realized like we were not able to scale it further because of the limitations of the tech. And also back then, to be honest with you, I didn't know a lot of things about business, like how to grow business and stuff. I just dropped the idea and joined Gojek as a software engineer. After that, I got burned out and I started following people like Danny Postma, Peter Levels on Twitter. I got to know about how they're able to build what they like and also like earn money through it. And in 2022, late 2022 is when I actually launched my first product called Honeypot. That's how the whole journey started. One of the biggest learning which I had while reading through their content on Twitter was how they were able to come up with ideas, right? So their approach was really, really unique because what I used to follow before was creating new categories. What I got to know from them is like, you don't need to create a new category as an indie hacker because you have limited time, limited money, limited bandwidth. So the biggest thing which you need to focus on early on is finding the right idea, right? A lot of people say like ideas are worth zero, but from my perspective, when you are an indie hacker, finding the right idea is one of the biggest thing, right? So what I suggest people is find a market which is already validated, right? There are already people or companies making money in the market. So pick that. And also like one of the caveat which I found, a lot of people go for companies which are VC funded. Like I personally don't think like having a VC funding in a particular market is a proof for a validated market. Because what I have seen is a lot of VC funded companies are still looking to validate their product or market.
That's a good point that a lot of people say ideas are useless. I think it's like a incomplete sentence, which I think is ideas are useless without the execution behind it. So we kind of glossed a bit over Honeypot, which was the first SaaS that you built after binge reading again all of these indie hackers. What was that software? What was Honeypot? And when did you transition into focusing more time on Supergrow?
Yeah, so Honeypot used to help founders find leads on Twitter. So the way it used to work is like if you're a SaaS owner or a service owner, you can add few keywords related to your service or product on in Honeypot, and Honeypot will find interesting conversations happening related to your product on Twitter. A lot of my customers actually started finding a lot of conversation related to their services and product, and you can basically organically join these conversations, and later like you can pitch in your product or service, right? That was the whole idea, and it reached to like 12K ARR. But around that time, Elon Musk acquired Twitter and changed the whole Twitter app ecosystem. He basically changed the API pricing. The cost of API was really huge. It was $45,000 per month. I couldn't afford it, so my app was killed. There were a lot of indie hackers whose Twitter app got killed because of this reason. So there was a community created by another indie hacker called Tony. He created a community of people who were affected because of this API changes. And I basically joined that, and my now co-founder also joined that community, and we basically started talking to each other, like what are the next steps, what are the things which we can do. And that's how like we decided, like we were basically exploring multiple ideas. So we joined together and just started Supergrow.
I see. That makes sense. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about finding the idea. So you mentioned that you want to find existing market, and when it came to Supergrow, you knew that personal branding was a big thing. You mentioned that you were already also knew that there's some maybe tools and solutions that already existed. How do you know in what markets you are able to compete and how you should be competing in those markets? Like what you should be focused on to differentiate yourself or to actually be competitive in that market?
Yeah, so I will actually tell you how I did it with Supergrow, right? We were exploring 3, 4 different ideas back then. We did a competitor analysis of all these different ideas, like LinkedIn personal branding space, and we found 3 tools which were doing really good, right? There's a tool called Tapio, which is our biggest competitor. They were doing really good back then. So I started using them day in, day out, right? I basically bought the paid plan and started using them. Back then, I realized there are only 2 things which are really important when you're building a personal brand on LinkedIn, right? One is basically content creation. The second is engaging with the audience which you have created on LinkedIn. So I started using the features related to these 2 different core problems. And I found out all these tools in the market were not really doing a great job. So I just spent 2 days and I created a simple MVP with the core focus of creating better quality content with just a few clicks. When I created it and I showed it to my co-founder, he was really surprised. Like I just integrated with ChatGPT API, and the interface was really simple. You will just put your raw thoughts on a text area, and at a click of a button, we will generate very authentic looking viral worthy LinkedIn posts. The quality of the content generated was really good. And also at the same time, we basically analyzed our competitors not just from a product lens, but also from the marketing lens, right? So we found out a lot of these competitors were actually using LinkedIn influencers to grow their app. And also like a lot of these competitors are actually publishing their revenue numbers on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So that actually gave us some motivation. Like there is even though the tool is not that great at content creation, it's able to generate so much revenue. So there was a demand, right? That actually helped us finalize the idea.
So I want to talk about the marketing growth strategy. So you mentioned a lot of competitors, a lot of the tools were using LinkedIn influencers to grow. But one of the most successful things that you did that I want to talk about is that you ran this lifetime deal on Rocket Hub. So first, for the audience that might not know what Rocket Hub is, please explain that and tell us more about what was this lifetime deal and what kind of outcomes you achieved by launching this deal.
Before jumping to that, I would to give a brief deep context. When we started Supergrow, we actually just used to do one thing. We just used to post our journey on Twitter and LinkedIn, right? So we used to share our like what we are building, why we are building, what are the like best practices of posting content on LinkedIn, right? So we were very active on all these social media platforms, right? So one day, the founder of like Rocket Hub is a like LTD platform. They basically launch SaaS tools with one-time fees, right? So that's what they do. So they reached out to like the co-founder reached out to us and asked us like, hey, can you launch a Supergrow on Rocket Hub? So we're really surprised. Like, and to be honest with you, I was very skeptical about LTD. Like, there is a recurring cost which they have to incur for the lifetime of the product, right? And also, what we have seen is lifetime users or customers are very demanding, right? And also, we all know SaaS subscription is the holy grail, right? So we started talking to him, and we basically launched our product on their platform. So the way it works is they will give us feedback before launching the product, like what are the things which you need to build inside your product to be able to launch on their platform. They will help you with feedback. They will help you with all the things needed to launch. And what they will do is they will actually market your product on behalf of you. So what happened with us is the co-founder of Rocket Up had us with a lot of feedback, and he launched our product during a Black Friday deals campaign. So they basically selected 10 tools from hundreds of different tools, and we actually generated $65,000 during that campaign. And we actually, to be honest with you, we actually didn't do anything in the marketing. We just improved the product based on their feedback. We just made sure like our customer support was really great, and they created ads to basically get their customers. They did email marketing, they did FB marketing, they did like Instagram and TikTok marketing. We just have to make sure the product works really well. So that was the whole idea of LTD.
Wow, so they did a lot for you to kind of hold your hand through this process. So I think it sounds like it was certainly worth the effort that went into it. One thing that you also did that was interesting during your launch was that you actually limited the number of licenses or seats that you were selling for this product. And most people would be like, why would you do that? Like, shouldn't you just make as much money as you can? Talk to us through that thought process. Why did you decide to do that?
Yeah. So the idea of LTD, to be honest, is not to generate a lot of revenue, right? At the early stage, why you're doing LTD is because of three reasons. One is you want to validate your product. The second idea is you want to get some revenue so you can get subscription-based customers. The third reason is you want to get cheerleaders of your product. We actually limited the number of deals, like 150 or 200 people will be able to buy the LTD deal. And the reason was because we actually didn't want to overdo this, so that we are not like down the line, we are not overburdened with the support request which we get from LTD customers.
That makes sense. And
I
you
think,
said to us that these lifetime deals, you mentioned that the goal is not to necessarily make as much money as possible, but you have a unique perspective on this, which was that you called it a funding engine with built-in focus groups. So obviously, an influx of cash is super helpful for any small startup that's just getting off the ground. But the built-in focus groups is not something a lot of people think about. For the most part, when you're launching something, you have nobody else to really tell you, give you any feedback at all. But now when you launch this lifetime deal, you have a ton of new customers that paid money for it, so they're going to be much more vocal and willing to give you feedback. So tell us more about this. How easy was it to get feedback after this launch, and how did you kind of organize the feedback that you're getting from these lifetime deal customers?
so just to give you a little insight, if say for example 100 people buy a lifetime deal, only 10% of these people are actually going to use a product regularly, right? So that's another thing which a lot of people don't take into consideration while launching LTD. So just to come to your question, as I said before, these LTD customers who are going to use a product are very demanding, which is sometimes during early stage, it's really good because you get a lot of feedback from these users. And if you're able to make them happy, they are actually going to become your cheerleaders, right? So one of the things we used to do is spend 1 or 2 hours every day on intercom answering their queries, talking to them about how they are using Supergrow to generate a lot of feedback with these early adopters. So what they used to do is like, because they are very demanding, if they find any bugs in your product, if they find any issue with your product, they will just send you a message on intercom, right? And if you're starting, this is actually a gold mine for you, right? You have paying customers for your product who are actually using your product and giving you feedback every day. And later, these customers, these happy LTD customers, helped us launch on Product Hunt and also launch our subscription model. So it is really great, right?
Yeah, you mentioned that most of them, like 89%, whenever log in or use it, but you build a small group of your loudest promoters and supporters out of that group that does actually end up using it. So once the deal, this lifetime deal was finished and launched, what did you learn about the marketing? Talk about the product features and the bugs they found. What about the marketing? Did you make any tweaks there? Did you learn anything about how they saw your product so that you knew how to create this marketing engine post lifetime deal launch?
Yeah. So just after LKD, we basically started improving our product day in, day out, right? And we actually decided a day to launch on Product Hunt. Like Product Hunt is a platform where a lot of indie hackers launch their product to get initial users for their subscription business. So we actually planned really well. Like we planned like 2-3 months before. And what we did was we started talking to communities related to a Product Hunt. We started engaging with them, like getting their feedback on the launch. We launched like a lot of Facebook and subgroups where there are people who actually help you launch products on these platforms. So what we did was we launched on Product Hunt, and the good part is if you go by this route, you already have like cheerleaders from your product LTD launch, like helping you on the launch day, right? So almost more than 10 plus LTD users were actually talking about our product on different platforms. They were tweeting about us, they were posting a LinkedIn content, they were talking about our launch on Slack communities, WhatsApp communities, right? So this actually gave us a lot of boost, and we actually become product of the day and product of the week on like Product Hunt because of their help, right? So the thing is, if you do two things right, as I said at the start, if you find the right idea which has a lot of demand in the market, it becomes very easy to first find initial users, find business partners like RocketUp who are ready to launch your product, find a lot of influencers also. One other thing we have done really well at Supergrow is LinkedIn influencer marketing. We were not able to do that because we did not have a lot of money at the start. So this LTD launch actually gave us some money so that we can start our influencer marketing engine. And they used to post about our product on LinkedIn. So there were a lot of benefits of following this route.
Yeah. So speaking of having those funds to do influencer marketing, how did you go about vetting which creators to work with? And I'm also curious about the process of working with these. Maybe we start first with how do you determine which creators are the right ones for your software?
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of context, when we started posting about our product on LinkedIn, we got a lot of inbound leads from creators who actually wanted to post content about Supergrow. There was one influencer, Luke Matthews. He has like more than 200K followers on LinkedIn. And he actually really liked what we created during the early stage of Supergrow. And he started posting about us on LinkedIn. And that gave us a lot of boost, right? Because see, like these LinkedIn influencers, if they're target audience is your target audience and did they post about your product, you will get a lot of signups on the very first few hours of their LinkedIn post, right? So a lot of people came inbound, but later in order to scale, we had to reach out to a lot of influencers. And so the idea was we basically finalized on two factors. One, we wanted to focus on LinkedIn influencers whose target audience is majorly from US or Europe. The second idea was their audience should be of high quality. There are a lot of scams and frauds, especially on Twitter and LinkedIn. So initially what we did was we followed their content on Twitter or LinkedIn, and we started checking like what kind of engagement these people are getting, like whether that engagement is actually a scam or fraud engagement or it's actually a legit engagement. But there are various other tools which you can use to basically filter out these like influencers. There are tools like Favicon, which helps you find creators for your campaigns on LinkedIn. But initially, we used to spend a lot of time manually figuring out whether the audience of a particular influencer is our target audience or not, and also whether the influencer is actually a legit influencer or not.
Yeah, and if you can talk a little bit about the numbers here as much as you can. I'm curious if someone is wants to take this approach of working with LinkedIn influencers, LinkedIn creators, how costly can this get? Do you need a lot of money to get started? And what kind of outcomes did you see, or what kind of outcomes can people expect to see when working with a legit influencer?
So there are 3-4 different deal structure that we put in while engaging with these LinkedIn influencers. So one of the sweetest deal was basically we will give them the product for free for maybe like 1 year or 2 year, and they will just post about our product, right? So that was one type of deal structure. The second type of deal structure was basically affiliate deal structure where they will get like 50% of the revenue which their post generates. The third type of deal structure was basically sort of a combined deal structure where they will get some fixed money for each post, And in addition to the affiliate commission they will get from the users which they sign up using their posts, right? So when you are starting your journey of this lead influencer marketing, I would suggest you to not focus on very big influencers. So initially, a lot of people whom we work with, they had like followers count in the range of 20 to 50K on LinkedIn. That was the sweet spot we found, and the price was really very different. But during the initial days, we used to pay somewhat around $300 to $500 for a single post. And on one campaign, sometimes we used to get like 20 customers. That's actually a lot if you think about the ROI, right? Clearly, our average order value is $25, which is basically per month, right? And if we get like 20 customers, this has actually already paid for a lot of money, right? So ROI is like more than 10x.
Yeah, that's amazing that it works out that way. I want to ask you this other question, which is that because you built a product that requires someone to pay monthly, the churn is going to be very important. Do you recall what are some of the biggest differences that you made to get people to return back and continue to get more value out of the app so that they will continue paying the $19 or $29 every month to use it?
Yeah. So last year, when I think in April or March, the churn actually shoot up to more than like 25%. So 25% of our users were churning every month. I got really scared back then. Like if 25% of the customers are churning every month, right, in actually losing all the customers you got 4 months earlier, right? So it was a huge pain back then. What we did was we actually started analyzing what was the reason of this churn. So we integrated with Chunky, and what happened with after that is like we started getting insights on why people were churning, and we whenever like people used to churn with the reason like the price is too low, Chunky automatically gives them discount codes, right? That actually helped us improve our churn a little bit. One of the big insight that we got after analyzing these cancellation reasons from Chunky dashboard was like a lot of these customers were actually not our target audience, right? Like when I say this, why like they were not target audience, like they were actually looking for something which can work out of the box for them, right? Like they will just set up once and things will just start working for them after that, right? They didn't want to spend like even like few minutes every week to basically build a personal brand, right? So they actually felt the product will work like a magic and it will do everything for them. So that is one other thing which we realized. The most important thing which I realized was like we were actually divided our customer segment into two different categories. One was basically B2C customers, the second was B2B customers. And we realized B2C customers, the churn on B2C customers was really high, like it was basically more than 20 plus. But on churn on B2B customers was very less, like it was, I think, around 5% or maybe less, right? So another thing which you used to do is whenever a customer used to churn, if we used to basically open a direct line of contact with these people, either through LinkedIn or maybe through email. So we used to reach out to them and we just used to ask them like, just give us like a brutal feedback, like why did you churn? If we can improve something in the product, will you join back and stuff like that. We actually opened a direct line and we got a lot of feedback from them, even though we had integrated with Chunky. Just opening a direct line with these churned users actually helped us a lot improving the product. We actually got to know few issues with our product. We got to know like there was some issues with our pricing as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That sometimes the best feedback they can get are from customers that end up leaving, not necessarily customers that end up staying, because it also gives you insight into like what might be missing or what might be off about your marketing. In your case, you learned that there's a specific segment of the audience you should be focusing more on, the B2B customers that seem to get more value out of it than the B2C customers. So thank you so much for your time, Devin. Thanks for coming on here, sharing your experience, your story, all your advice with us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Felix, for having me. It was nice sharing my journey.